Alrighty, so I am still at the Midwestern Ecology and Evolution Conference, and I'm here with Sarah Worthington from Indiana State University. They're actually the ones hosting the conference, so thank you both for hosting the conference and for agreeing to explain yourself on our video series.
Oh yes, of course. It's really nice to have you all here. So.
So I always like to start people by asking you to explain your current research project for us.
So currently I work on lizards. I work with Scoloporus yarrovi, or the yarrow spiny lizard. They're endemic to Arizona, and I work with them at the Southwest Research Station in Portal, Arizona. And so my lizards they're ovoviviparous, meaning that they, instead of laying eggs, they have eggs, they stay pregnant, they stay gravid, as we say with lizards, and they eventually hatch inside of mom and they give live birth.
So it's not live birth in the same way like a mammal would, so the egg actually hatches inside mom.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of forming a shell, it just has a membrane instead, and it hatches inside of mom, and then they're born. So, yeah.
Cool.
And my lizards I focus on the female lizards because they're the ones giving birth. And these female lizards are actually aggressive towards other females. Which is very interesting. Yeah, so they're aggressive towards other females. They also have bright blue colorations, like the males. This is one of the few lizards that actually has bright blue coloration, just like the males, found in the females. And so what I'm looking at is the patch color. So the bright patch colors on their bellies, they're bright blue. And I want to see how those colors change in individuals with their reproductive levels. And I'm also going to follow the hormone levels that could be affecting the patch coloration and also the aggression and maybe the offspring.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay, so the females have the blue on their bellies just like the males do.
Yep.
But the color the color changes, or like the saturation of the color changes?
So it's the saturation of the color. Instead of being bright blue, their color starts to fade, and that's what my first year of research found, is that they are actually losing their color right after they give birth.
Interesting. And now you're looking at the mechanism, or the why.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, I'm looking at why.
Any thoughts on the why?
So there's a couple of things that I've been looking at. So I think that they might lose their color because color is a nice signal to say, hey, I don't want to talk to you. But instead of having a physical altercation, they can just signal. Okay. And they're gravid, so they don't want to fight. But they lose that color signal. They're bright blue. Bright blue is pretty easy for predators to see. So at this point, after they've given birth, they might just be letting go of the blue. They might just be really aggressive towards other females and trying to survive the summer.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So you're actually out there at the field station working with the lizards.
Yep.
So like, what does a typical day as a lizard researcher look like?
So we get up hopefully before the lizards. These lizards are active right in the morning.
Okay.
So we need to be up and ready to go. So bright and early breakfast. We go out and try to find those lizards. We try to find them in creek beds, and the creek beds that are specifically facing south, so the sun can warm them up right away. So we're looking at creek beds that are nice and sunny, nice and warm. Go out and find the lizards, and what we do is we actually have a nice long fishing pole with a loop on the end, and so we lasso the lizards.
Sure.
So we are lizard lassoers. We catch the lizards. We process them right away. We try to take their blood samples so that we can get an accurate reading of their normal levels before we stress them out.
Sure.
Because when we stress them out, that could cause some problems.
Right, yeah.
And then we take the lizards back to the lab, and we will actually process them there. We will measure them, weigh them, get some information about them, take their picture. They usually take pictures pretty well, surprisingly. And then we will release them into semi-natural enclosures where we can keep them for a while, let them relax, we'll feed them, make sure that they have crickets to eat. And then we will let them give birth and do some behavioral observations.
Very cool. So this is a semi-wild observation and semi like taking the animals from the wild, and so you're only temporarily keeping them.
Yeah, I release them right after I'm done with their observations of the offspring and themselves.
Very cool.
So yeah, and I have complete permission from Arizona to release the offspring where mom is found.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and they're pretty much in natural enclosures. They're just nice and sorted out so I can keep track.
Exactly, because it's very difficult to keep track of, how big are these things?
These lizards, they are about, I don't know, They're about 10 centimeters long, I want to say.
Okay, so that's
they're
not
20
huge.
grams.
Okay, yeah,
they're 20-gram
they're
lizard.
not very big. So
Yeah,
like it fits in the palm of your hand.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So I hold them. The way that I hold them is I have my thumb against their side, and they have a leg on my thumb, and they have a leg on the back. So,
Sure. Yeah. So they're not super big. So yeah, they'd be very difficult to keep track of out
Oh
in
my
the...
gosh! And the babies are the size of a thumbnail.
Sure.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I put paint on their backs while I have them in enclosures, so I
Yeah.
can keep track of who they are.
Yeah.
So, yep.
So yeah, it does make sense to sort of keep them in the enclosure while you're doing, especially because it's a behavioral study, you want to be able to watch them. So do you do like an ethogram where you're like keeping track of multiple behaviors, or like what exactly are you looking for?
Yeah, so I do. What I do is I usually have my undergrads help in this because it gets them to take some ownership of this experience. And I have my undergrads look at the behaviors, write things down, do observational studies, making sure that they're looking at focal animal observation studies.
Okay.
So I have them check those out. Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
It sounds fun. I don't think we've talked to a lot of entomologists because I do bug things, but I think you're maybe my first. Well, no, I did one other herpetologist, but yeah, lizards are cool.
Yeah,
I feel like
lizards
I
are
haven't
cool.
met many lizard
Yeah,
researchers.
Yeah, I use trail cams to track some of them too.
Oh, okay.
But the thing is that lizards don't set off trail cameras, so I have to use the time lapse function.
Why don't lizards set off trail cameras?
So trail cameras are activated by infrared,
Aha.
and lizards are not much warmer than their environment, so I can't use trail cameras.
That's hysterical.
I can, however, use garage door lasers because
they break
because it breaks the laser. Yep.
That's really cool.
Yep.
I love it.
Yeah, so there's some work being done with that for snakes too. So.
That is a really great illustration of like the weird things that ecologists have to do in order to like design methods for study systems,
And,
right?
you know, I'm fine. Watching the talks this week, I've actually seen a lot of different things that have been used for research, so it's really cool.
It's all about creativity and often arts and crafts.
Yes, the art of science.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with all of that field work and like semi-field work, like what is your favorite thing about field work?
Oh goodness.
Stuff.
I love field work because we get to go out and it's a nice structured day. I know what I'm going to do that day, but I don't know what's going to happen. So I don't know if I'm going to catch all of my lizards. I don't know how many lizards I'm going to catch. And I don't know what they're going to do behaviorally. I have no idea what's going to happen. And I really love that. I just love being outside.
That too. Yeah.
I love being outside. It's so much fun. Yeah.
So that is what you're doing currently, but how did you wind up here? So I guess it's a multi-part question. So why did you decide to become a scientist? Why did you decide to become a grad student? And how did you wind up working with these lizards?
Okay, so I decided to be a scientist. I grew up next to a national park. I grew up next to Voyageurs National Park. And I loved being outside. My family had me outside all the time, constantly. We're out fishing and everything. And I was always the kid that went to those educational shows and wanted to hold the snake.
Yeah.
I was that kid. Like, oh, the cool, the puppies are cool too, but the snake's really cool.
Oh yeah.
So that's how I got interested in science, interested in biology. I always wanted to mess with something outside and be outside. And I like math, so
okay.
I'm okay with doing all of the statistics.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like you might be one of the first people on here who said they like math, so that's that's exciting.
Yeah. But I'm okay with numbers. I get along with numbers.
Okay.
So yeah. And then I decided to be a grad student because in undergrad I was involved in some undergrad research with lizards and lizard behavior, and I got a taste for fieldwork.
Yeah.
And doing lizard behavior fieldwork. Oh my gosh. So I wanted to be a grad student. I wanted to keep going. I liked school, so I figured, hey, why not go to school again? I did my master's working with snakes. So I got snakes across the road. That was my research
cool.
for master's.
Nice.
Yeah. So I got that done, and then I actually took a year off, and I was an adjunct at a community college, and I really enjoyed that. I like teaching. I really like teaching general biology, and getting people to actually get into biology and interested in biology. But I didn't like having to be hired from year to year. I didn't like that being an adjunct means that you are hired if we have the students for you to teach, and if we maybe possibly are okay with that. The community college I worked for was fantastic. I loved them, and I would love to go back and work there as full-time professor would be nice. But I decided that having a master's, I wanted the security of being able to have a PhD and have an actual position with benefits and being a professor. So yeah, I just came back and kept doing a PhD. Nice. And I met both of my advisors for grad school through conferences.
That's why we come to these things, to talk about science with other people. Yeah,
it really is. It's great for networking. I love it.
Yep. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about adjuncting. That's something we haven't covered before. And as much as there's a cricket on the floor over there.
Oh,
biology
that's mine.
building.
Oh, that's mine. My advisor dropped crickets the other day.
Nice.
So my lizards are on this floor. So I have 9 lizards, and we need to feed them, and that's food.
I mean, that's totally not out of the norm. But yeah, we talk a lot about like the journey to grad school and becoming a scientist on here, with the idea that like a lot of people out there on the other side of the screen might be interested in starting that career journey. But yeah, adjuncting is kind of a funny thing in this whole being a research scientist and being in academia thing. So yeah, can you talk more about like your particular experience with adjuncting, and also sort of like what adjuncting means more broadly, and like how choosing to or not to take an adjunct position affects people's careers? Yeah,
so being an adjunct means that you're an instructor who's hired, but not necessarily as a full professor or as an assistant or associate professor. So you are working for the university, but you're not, you're hired from semester to semester or from year to year. And sometimes it comes with benefits, most of the times it's not. It oftentimes does not come with benefits. And you're paid less. Even though you have the same degrees as someone who might be hired as full-time, you're often able to be paid less. And there's no union.
Yep. And you're I mean, teaching is very important, but you're just teaching classes, right? You don't have a lab of your own, or a research budget, or grad students to mentor, or even undergrads to mentor, right?
Right, yeah, you don't have any of that. You might advise some undergrads, but most of the time you're not advising, and that's just academic advising, that's not research.
Right.
You don't have a research budget, you most oftentimes do not have your own office. For my example, I didn't have my own office. I shared with other adjuncts. I was fine with that.
Yeah.
But if I were going to stay there for a longer period of time, I need an office. You need to be able to talk to students that are, well, there's not, a birthday party going on. But being an adjunct, you also don't really have a whole lot of ownership over your classes. So you're told what you're going to be teaching. You're not creating a course. You can create your own curriculum. Sometimes, in my experience, I could do what I wanted with the course. I had to, of course, turn in my syllabus and turn in what my curriculum outlines were. But I was told that I'm teaching Bio 101, and these are your 2 classes, and these are the times that you're doing these 2 classes. So a lot of professors can pick and choose when to hold their classes, whereas an adjunct can't.
Yeah.
You're just hired in there. So,
and because you don't, because it's not a full-time permanent position, and there's no research component that can affect your career trajectory into the future, because if you're not publishing, that becomes a weird thing about trying to get faculty positions as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. When you're not publishing, you're not putting science out in there, and the number of publications is definitely something that you're judged on when you're being hired.
For better or for worse.
Yes.
That is neither here nor there, and I suppose that's an important caveat, is that like people who are teaching in adjunct positions are definitely incredibly valuable.
Yes.
We're not hating on those people, but those positions put people in an odd place in terms of the way the academy deals with professionals, and so I suppose that's something I wanted to talk about because it's important for people to know.
Yeah, it is, and they're definitely, I mean, they're definitely teaching. They're teaching new scientists. These are valuable professors. These are valuable instructors, and I love being an adjunct, and it was great for me in that point in time. It was a great filler for between being a master's student and a PhD. If I didn't have this opportunity at Indiana State, I probably would have stayed on as an adjunct. But it's strong. It's really hard, and the structure of it is really in need of some fixing.
Yeah,
that's really what happens. It's not the people that fill the roles; it's the structure.
It's the way those jobs are managed. So I appreciate all of that. That's a good perspective we haven't had on here before. So you talked a little bit about your background, like growing up near a national park is a really awesome opportunity. So you were very lucky to have that. So talk to us more about like your childhood, or like did your family influence you being a scientist? What makes that a thing that you can't escape from?
So my parents, so I'm a first generation PhD student.
Ooh.
Yes. My grandfather got a master's in education because he was a teacher, principal, whatnot. But my parents are not in academia. They are hardworking people. My father was a millwright in a paper mill, and my mom worked in restaurant businesses. But my parents, we spent a lot of time outside. They wanted to get us outside constantly. They kicked us out. They never let us stay inside. If you want to read a book, you're reading it outside.
That's awesome.
And we would always have a lot of activities going on. We could go and explore the woods, go fishing and go water skiing and stuff. And I don't know, growing up, I liked being outside. I liked playing in the dirt. And I liked asking questions. I think that's the biggest thing that got me into science, was I liked to know why. I wanted to know what in the world is going on. Why does this frog move the way it does? Why does a frog close its eyes every time it swallows? And turns out that their eyes are connected to the function that lets them swallow. That's cool. And I don't know, I just love being outside and taking care of nature too. My parents definitely were people who told me to be responsible with how I was treating nature. Yes. We might not like the black bear that's sitting in the crabapple tree, but we have to respect its space. My parents definitely told me to respect wildlife and nature, and my grandfather owned a tree farm as well, so we had some property that he ran a tree farm on. And he didn't have to run it as a tree farm. He could have knocked it all down and farmed it, but he valued those trees. So
I especially love the emphasis there on respecting nature, especially with your bear example, right? Like, we can give wildlife the space they need without fear, right? Like your choices are not either you are right up there taking selfies with the animal and like harassing it, or you're really scared of it and you want it to not be there. Like, there is that nice respectful middle ground.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really how I grew up. That's how my family treated animals. We did grow up hunting, but we grew up respecting it. And in my area, it was good to manage some of the deer population, but throughout the rest of the time, my grandfather, as he got older, instead of actually going out hunting, he would go out with a camera, and he insisted on taking his grandkids with. So we hunted for pictures instead. So. Yeah.
How did that idea of respect versus fear come in? Because you said you worked with snakes, and I love snakes too. But I've met so many people that they don't mean ill. This is just the way that they sort of like came to learn about the world, that snakes are this terrible, scary thing. So like, how did you often interact with the public when you were doing your snake research and address that kind of thought? So that's something that comes up really often is, okay, well, I'm going to tell you, everyone decides that, I saw the snake once and I was afraid of it, so we got rid of it. And it's generally not a pretty story. Lots of shovels.
Lots of shovels.
Yep.
And really, that's when snake bites happen, is when you're trying to attack them. But it really comes in that you have to respect wildlife, and you just have to give them space, because having a fear of them, it's okay to have a fear if you just step back and don't let your fear have an effect on that animal's life. Because then you're letting that fear win.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening, is you're letting that fear win. Being able to just step back, that's when you're starting to be brave, and you're starting to take control of that fear, and you're starting to make sure that it's your life that you're living and not your fear.
That was really deep, but like it's really important too. Was yes, all of that.
And honestly, sometimes it just takes exposure. A lot of these people have not dealt with these animals before. They've just grown up as these are terrifying animals. They haven't seen them before. They're afraid.
Yeah.
They don't know what's going on. They're afraid of the unknown. So a lot of the times we just kind of expose people to them gently, you know. I'm on a couple of Facebook groups that are just snake identification.
Oh, nice.
So you just show pictures of snakes, and we encourage people to just go onto the site and look at pictures. You don't have to say anything about them. You just see them, learn what their names are. And giving a name to something is really what helps.
Yeah, that's very powerful.
Yeah.
Like you said, as a kid, you wanted to know what things were and how they worked, and understanding leads us to a better place of compassion.
Yeah, it really does. And when I was an undergrad, we did a lot of education shows with reptiles and amphibians. We had a really large collection of reptiles and amphibians at the school, including an alligator.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's at a sanctuary now. He got a little too big. Yeah. Al, of course.
Of course,
yeah. But we ended up, we talked to people a lot of the times. We would bring all these reptiles and amphibians to show to kids. We'd bring them to the library and do library shows. And most of the time, the kids were all about it. They were just so excited about these animals. And the parents were a little rough. But really, we found out that using animals to get to kids helped us to get to the parents too. Yeah. Little
not peer pressure, but like the kid pets the snake and then says, "Mom, you should do it too," right? Yeah.
That happens all the time. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
That's one of my favorite things.
Yeah. The kid just pressures. Well, not pressure, but. Come on, Mom. I did it. You can do it too. Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite is when the moms are like, "Oh, it feels like a purse," and I'm like,
that's a problem.
But it's also funny.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So I'll switch gears a little bit, but you mentioned something before that is really valuable, because I said that part of the reason for this video series at all is because representation in science is so important, right? If you can see someone doing science who, you know, is like you in some way, it makes it more understandable that yes, I belong in this space and I can be a scientist if I want to, and like if you want to, you definitely should. So you said that you're a first generation PhD student, and also, I mean, we're women in science.
Yes, we are.
So how have any diversity categories that you may fall into, those or any others, how have those affected your experience as a scientist so far, and sort of what would you want other people who also identify in those diverse categories to know about this?
Right, about being science.
Yeah, being science.
Well, being a woman in science and any of the diversity groups, I've realized that I need to make myself more vocal. I'm naturally a fairly outspoken person, and I've been told that maybe I'm a little too outspoken, but maybe. The thing is I've learned that it's okay to be shy at some times, but there are some times that I just really need to be vocal, and I need to put myself out there and help represent women in science. I definitely feel the pull right now to speak out and share my research and say, hey, yeah, I'm a woman in science and I'm studying really cool reptiles and amphibians. Like some of these animals get kind of a bad, you know, kind of bad feelings about them. So I really feel like I need to pull them out of that, and that I need to be a vocal woman, and yeah. So it's hard sometimes because you do feel that pressure, And you shouldn't always feel that pressure. You should just be who you are, and you should just be a PhD student studying your own research. It's hard enough.
I was going to say it's definitely not just stressful to be a PhD student without anything else, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's hard enough to be a PhD student. But I've actually had a lot of fairly strong female role models in my life, and my advisor right now is a woman in science, and she's been a woman in science for a while, and that's an excellent role model. But I don't know, to people who are wondering if they should be a scientist, I say go for it. Like, why not? And you don't have to be a PhD. You don't have to be a master's student. You could just appreciate science. We have so many citizen science projects that are going on right now. Oh my gosh. There are a lot of researchers, and even at this conference, people have said, oh, well, I had thousands of videos to look over. Well, if you like watching animals,
you can watch all of these videos and also help us learn more.
Yeah, exactly. You could watch this video of this bird feeder and tell us if it's a bird or if it's a raccoon.
Yep.
But yeah, there's plenty of opportunities for science out there. You don't have to be a scientist, and anyone can be a scientist. Anyone can be out there. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're coming from. As long as you have an interest and a respect for nature, be a scientist. Go for it.
Yeah.
Especially a biologist.
Yes. Biology is...
Physics is cool too, but...
Sure. Yeah. But, I mean, we have animals.
Yeah, we have animals.
Or flowers. Whatever.
Yeah. We have all kinds of critters.
I mean, it's a fun place to be, and obviously the people who do biology are pretty cool too, so totally not biased. So another thing I like to ask people, so talking about diversity or just feeling free to be who you are, is there anything that you think is like interesting about yourself, any like characteristics of yourself or any hobbies you have or something where like when people find out that you are a scientist and also like you think it would surprise them or like it's interesting, it provides that 3 dimension to your
a little bit of personality. Yeah. Well, let's see. I like trivia, but that goes pretty well with being a scientist.
You like being a know-it-all? What?
What?
Me too.
Professors beat us every week. Yeah, anyways. Rough. But one of the things that I like to do is I actually like to sew. And that's one of the things that I really love to do. I started off with making some lizard catching bags.
Okay.
Because they're just like pillowcases.
Sure.
And they're nice straight lines. Then I've moved on to making hats and making leggings, and I actually made my own bridesmaid's dress last year. So
that is really cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
You make clothes.
Yeah.
That is really neat.
Yep. So I've been making clothes. It makes really great Christmas presents. I just need to, and it's a nice. What I really like about sewing is I actually get that immediate payoff. I'm done. I get my work done, and as soon as I'm done with that final stitch, I have a piece of clothing.
Ta-da!
I can put it on. I can put the hat on. I can try it out. I can send it off to someone, and it's kind of a nice balance with science because it takes a long time for us to get results. It takes a long time for that payoff.
Yeah.
But immediate gratification of sewing.
That's super
It helps keep me going, so yeah.
I love that. That's a good one.
Thanks,
wow. Yeah, see, I like asking that because it surprises me and I get to hear fun things. That's really neat.
Yeah, so I hang out with other non-scientists. My husband works for the railroad, so he doesn't really know a whole lot about science, but he still goes with it.
Sure, yeah.
He's completely supportive about that, so that's really cool. I think that's all I got to say.
Nice. That's fine. Yeah. So I'd like to thank you so much for organizing such a wonderful conference and also for coming and being on video with me. I hope you had fun. I learned a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun talking.
Thank you. So if you liked this video, don't forget to like it. If you didn't like this video, please share it with someone who would. And if you'd like to support the Roving Naturalist, remember to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification icon. You can also follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.